Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nuggets News. What a big news week it's been again across world stock markets, housing markets, and of course crypto markets. A lot of red across the board. The Bitcoin cash forks continue to bleed. I'm going to talk about why that is. But before we get into it, this week's On This Day in Crypto History is a little bit different. It's actually been a year today since I quit my job and Bitcoin was right at its all-time highs. I was certainly in a rut. I was really unhappy with my job. I'd been at for 5 years at the pharmacy. Bitcoin and crypto was the one thing that I was really passionate about, and we had the wedding coming up and wanted to start a family. It was a really risky move. My wife wasn't overly thrilled with it. And if you had told me crypto was going to drop 90% over the next 12 months, I'm not sure I still would have had the guts to quit my job. But thanks to James, Ben, all the team at Nuggets News, we made that commitment to try and make quality free content 6 days a week and really build our trusted Nuggets News brand, and as well as our high quality service where we charge $50 Australian or 35 US a month for our audience overseas. We could have never dreamt it would have been so popular. We still have well over 1,000 members to this day that are part of our community where we're all helping each other. And I think that's why it's been so successful. Even in a brutal bear market, everyone wants to learn and help each other. There's still profitable trades to be had, building that fundamental knowledge. And while this year has been extremely challenging, I can't wait for Bitcoin to shine again next year and beyond. So thanks for all your support. Head to nuggetsnews.com.au if you want to join, guys. We've got a range of Christmas specials as well on at the moment, so check that out. Okay, into the news. Well, this week Janet Yellen came out and said that there's gigantic holes in the system that could lead to a crisis. And it was only a year ago when she said that we won't see another financial crisis in our lifetimes. And these are the people who we are trusting with the world's money and the economy. And she's not the first Federal Reserve chairman to come out and say everything's rosy and then a crash happens, or everything's fine, and then once they get out of office tell people to buy gold. And I did an in-depth analysis this week for the inverted yield curve, what it means. Obviously we'll continue to talk about this on the channel because there is another crisis coming, and it's all down to these interest rates and debt, all these artificial measures that banks, central banks around the world have put in place to try and put the economy on life support and keep it going. And now they're talking about unwinding all this and getting rid of all that money that they've pumped into it and increasing interest rates. And we know that the world is very indebted, and it's not that simple. In Australia, we're going to continue to talk about all these issues. We saw that 722 of the biggest companies in Australia paid zero in tax. And a lot of people said to me, there's certain things that do help small business in Australia, and that's fine. But I just know personally, having started a business this year and talking to others, there's so many things that are hard to overcome, and there's not that incentive where I'd love to see the first year or two startups get a tax break or something like that. I know personally I would have employed more staff, but instead I'm paying these huge amounts of tax and GST to the government. So I'd certainly think we don't have competitive tax rates in Australia. There's no incentive to be an entrepreneur, and that's what really worries me about the Australian economy. In terms of the banking sector in Australia, we've got more news out this week that there's just widespread fraud, and the Royal Commission is looking into why the banks, their practices and lending out too much money to people that maybe couldn't afford it, and the bonuses that were given out, all those incentives. And this is the result. We see these people that were using fake documents to give anyone that came in a loan from any country around the world fake documents, and all this sort of thing is what has boosted house prices to these artificial levels. So I'm going to continue to work on a big housing special and where I see the Australian economy heading, because I don't think there's ever been a more important time to understand the Aussie dollar, Bitcoin, our economy, and the housing market to protect your wealth and the future of your family, I guess. That's why I put this post out during the week. Guys, please follow me on Facebook if you haven't already. 6 years ago, everyone thought I was crazy when I said to buy Bitcoin. And 3 years ago, a lot of friends and I, a lot of smart people, Martin North, everyone was saying that housing is getting stretched. And this went on longer than a lot of people thought because of these artificial measures that central banks put in place, but now they're talking about unwinding those. I think we are heading into our first recession in 27 years. A lot of people in Australia do not know any other way than the lucky lifestyle of being able to afford everything you want, being able to buy $1 million home. We've never seen a bad day, and I think it's going to come to a real shock to people when the RBA, the central bank in Australia, have to do one of these 5 options: print money, lower interest rates to 0 or negative interest rates, huge government intervention, more government handouts that could result in inflation, or immigration policies that tend to be really unpopular. So again, I want to really focus on this stuff in a big special, hopefully in the coming weeks, where everyone can share with friends and family over the Christmas period. Now, Robinhood and their crypto-friendly app, their share trading app, they came out and said, look, we want to have this 3% basically savings account, banking account type of service. And regulators weren't really happy. But it wasn't only that, it was the other banks that got their knickers in a knot here and said, you can't do that. We're only offering 0.1%. There's no way that you can start issuing bank accounts to people and have it insured if they're not even going to be trading. You just can't do that. And it kicked up a lot of interest from a lot of people. Everyone had an opinion. So they did have to put out a letter the next day saying that they're going to change the name of what they're doing. So it's not really going to be referred to as a bank account of sorts. But keep an eye on that news from Robinhood. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out now that they have ruffled a few feathers. In terms of these bankers, that we love it because they're giving us these headlines. They're making Bitcoin's job a lot easier because of all their fraud and malpractice. So JP Morgan is now facing a potential class action lawsuit because of their former traders that are coming out and saying, yes, we were paid, it was our job to rig the metals market, suppress the price of gold and silver. And this is all because of the US dollar hegemony. The world reserve currency needs to be seen to be strong. It's a threat to the banks. This is all the issues that you've probably gone down the rabbit hole and got into Bitcoin. And these were all conspiracy theories that are now coming out to be true. This is fantastic. It just makes the banks look even worse again. In Venezuela, personal accounts now frozen, and as always, it's under this guise of terrorism or money laundering and whatever it is. But people are slowly waking up to the fact that even if your money is in a bank, it is no longer yours. These are the extreme examples, but one by one, we're going to see in other countries. We've already seen it in Greece, we've seen it in Venezuela, Cyprus. Now we're going to see it in maybe Italy next, maybe France. Who knows? We already see the capital controls in places like China. People are wising up to the fact that you need to take custody of your own money and be your own bank as Bitcoin allows. Similar story in Russia here, where I put this tweet out about Vitalik meeting with Putin on several occasions. It was pretty funny that Vitalik actually came out and corrected me. So sorry about that, guys. I think the headlines that I had in my memory were Putin has definitely spoken about Bitcoin, Ethereum, and cryptocurrency on several occasions. And if Russia get sanctioned, I think just like we've seen, the petro in Venezuela, they're going to look to bypass the SWIFT system and trade with gold, trade with their own currency, or trade with Bitcoin, maybe something like Ethereum. Vitalik is Russian born, but again, it's just this move away from that US superpower world reserve currency. Open Finance Network. So we've done a number of episodes now talking about security tokens and the future there, but well done to Open Finance Network. I registered an account today. It is a bit more work than opening up, or maybe not these days if you're doing KYC, but if you've got those documents there, it took me less than 5 minutes to open an account. I want to be able to trade and invest in security tokens early. There's already a couple out, and I did do that detailed analysis during the week, guys, of 50 projects I believe are doing exciting things in the security token space. And my overall thoughts about, is this all the next bubble? Is it being built up to something it's not? Or where I think we're going to find a happy medium between crowdfunding, community focus, and security tokens. So make sure you check out my ultimate guide to security tokens video I did during the week. Back home to Australia now, where we're starting to read these reports of Google search trends for is Bitcoin dead, or Bitcoin. But in Australia, CoinSpot is the 5th most searched term, and that is pretty crazy. considering that Bitcoin only comes in at number 9, CoinSpot is, I guess, you can think of them as the Binance of Australia. They've been an altcoin exchange that have been around for a few years now, and it really is crazy. Australia really is obsessed with cryptocurrency. I think we actually have the highest amount of investors per capita than any other country in the world. I think we're more crypto mad than China or Korea or some of these other countries as well. So I'm really looking forward to next year and getting around to tour again and meet all the Australian cryptocurrency enthusiasts. Horizon State, well done this week, guys. They got out the first public release of their decision-making platform. I'm going to continue to harp on this year about platform, product, and team. Are they making progress on their roadmap? Have they got a working product? And is the team doing the right thing in the interest of the community and making good decisions? So these projects that are doing the right thing are going to start to stand out. 0x was in the news for a couple of reasons this week. So one of their main relays said, we're not happy with how the 0x team are progressing. Some of the things that they're focusing on are too short term, and we want to focus on some longer term things. So there's a bit of a disagreement. They're going to hard fork away and use a similar code base to 0x, but without the ZRX token. And the 0x team have come out and said, that's great. We've had a disagreement. We're open to communicate and work with you guys, but we believe that we need to focus on these things in the short term. You can't build out the longer, bigger picture until we've done the small basic things well and built that infrastructure right. And announcing their accelerator program this week to help these startups. And I still think 0x is one of the strongest projects out there for all these other exchanges and protocols to be building on top of, particularly those decentralized derivatives that I think are going to be huge throughout next year. Good news for Maker. I've got my t-shirt on today, guys. In terms of the stability coin, it's great to see Maker and the DAI, the system, acting as it should in a large Ethereum volatility and a lot of liquidations, but the system has acted exactly as it should do. So stability there, great projects are going to partner with other big projects. I know there's plenty of WAN-chain fans out there, and Maker is now interoperable with WAN-chain. And obviously their focus with Bitcoin and continuing to focus on interoperability with all the big projects. Another project that takes advantage of DAI, Ethereum, 0x again there already, is Blockboard. So there's a couple of these similar style apps or dashboards out there that have quite attractive returns at the moment to loan out your cryptocurrency. So if you want to lend it out at the moment, you can get some pretty decent returns, 6% on DAI stablecoin. That's better than you're going to get in any bank account. And a lot of people are borrowing this crypto at such high interest rates because they believe that those percentage returns they're going to get in the future by investing in crypto is worth borrowing money at this rate. So check out that panel, that dashboard, if you haven't already. In terms of other stablecoins, I'm getting a lot of questions about, is there a need for all these different ones? I think it's better to have a range of options other than just Tether until they're going to be more transparent. I think DAI is by far the best stablecoin out there, along with other crypto-backed coins like Haven that have rebranded to Synthetix. I'm going to have that interview out next week with Kane. But what is really important to understand to you guys, that Basis is shutting down. There is not a need for a wide range. There's only a need for the best ones that have a huge demand. Now, a few people have said to me, why are you promoting Maker and DAI? You should be promoting Bitcoin as a currency. Now, Bitcoin is going to become a global currency of sorts some days in a number of countries. But for the time being, if you've been paid in Bitcoin this year, working in Venezuela, Greece, any of these countries, you've lost 85% of your value, and that's not good enough if we have alternatives. So a lot of people throughout Europe are already being paid in Maker DAI stablecoin. Now, in the future, that's going to have its own roles as a stablecoin, but Bitcoin will capture some of that market share once it is scaled, or once it's in a bull market. People are going to want to get paid in Bitcoin, but for the time being, these stable coins have a strong place in the ecosystem and are serving a purpose. Congrats this week to 10x, who performed a atomic swap on the Lightning Network ERC20 to Bitcoin. So this was a world first. Good to see 10x making some inroads. I know a lot of people have left a bad taste in their mouth because they paid for their 10x card, as I did. We haven't been issued with them yet. This is another theme that I spoke about a while ago. Some of these projects are going to come out and issue a second token. Some of them, it's just an attempt to raise more money. They haven't sold their Ethereum. They've run out of runway. So this 10x token is meant to be a rewards token, separate to the pay token. They are doing an airdrop. Read that article if you want more information, guys. But this is the theme we're going to see play out in 2019 as projects run out of funds. Well done to Cardano this week. They got out their Plutus Playground. So Plutus is their coding language, just as Ethereum has its own Solidity. The good news is here, you don't have to download anything. You can head over to this editor and have a play around for you developers out there. It's good to see Cardano making progress, and I'm still, like a lot of us, anticipating the release of their mainnet. 1 month on, what have we learned from the Bitcoin Cash split? So a lot of the Bitcoin Cash supporters out there were saying a few weeks ago, Nugget, why aren't you talking about Bitcoin Cash? It's number 4. Satoshi's vision is number 4 on CoinMarketCap. It's the real Bitcoin. And I said, look, give it a few weeks for the dust to settle. And they're both now around that $80 mark, around the $1 billion market cap. And you have to remember, guys, people that are still mining this are getting a lower and lower block reward, and it's kind of, I just don't like the way that this is playing out. We're seeing things like this where huge amounts of Bitcoin Cash are on the move to exchanges. 14 million Bitcoin Cash transferred. We know that they're playing games with each other, and a lot of the Bitcoin whales are now saying, well, I've got a second fork. I'm probably going to sell that and buy more Bitcoin. If I can get all these SV coins or ABC coins that I had in my wallet, and now Bitcoin's down at $3,000, hey, I can buy a lot more Bitcoin. So look, it is hard to see. I know some of these people have the best intentions. They do believe Satoshi's vision is the real coin. The ABC can't believe that they're carrying on the true vision of Satoshi. So the fact is that the game theory behind this now, that the price has got so low, there's not really that great of incentives to mine there. They're again fighting with each other in a lot of that market share that they had, and they're both losing ground. In a lot of ways, it makes Bitcoin look like the honey badger. It goes on, it becomes stronger. Look, let's wait and see how these other Bitcoin Cash forks go in terms of adoption, if they're going to do good things. Let's keep an eye on the news, guys, and keep an open mind. But for the time being, I think it's a lot of headwinds facing those two forks after the way they went about things. There was some great criticism this week of Amisa Go, and certainly one project that I've been really bullish on, that are setting out to do some huge things with Plasma, blockchains within blockchains, their e-wallet, the partnerships that they've set out to build. But there was some great criticism this week, and the team came out and gave their response about their communications and their expectations and everything they've learned. Like a lot of projects, guys, I never bashed these projects like Cardano and EOS, Ethereum, Bitcoin. All these projects are behind on their initial schedules or where they wanted to be. These things take time, and so often we get impatient. I know it's hard, and we see the Wall Street cheat sheet. A lot of people are at that anger stage now where their investment is down 90% if they bought at the wrong time. They're looking on someone else to blame. How many times do people say, do your own research and be patient? And the future is so bright still for a lot of these good projects, but we're certainly seeing a lot of people become uneasy with their investments that haven't done their own research and aren't confident with the projects that they've invested in. The CFTC invited a number of people to teach them more, a request for input as they're calling it here. They want to learn about Ethereum. Now, some people are saying that this is speculation. They want to add Ethereum futures or other investing products. But hey, it's been a year since we got futures on Bitcoin, and that hasn't really helped the price as everyone thought it would. So it's good that they're being open-minded to this. But yeah, let's see what comes of it. I think it's a given that we're going to get some Ethereum investment products somewhere along the line in the future. Vitalik came out this week to talk about proof of stake. Look, whenever this happens, the Bitcoin maximalists bash Ethereum, other people bash proof of work. It just does my head in, guys, the fact that people cannot work together. The crypto ecosystem is now sitting at around $100 billion total market cap. We are so tiny. We need to be working together if we want to become an asset class and grow and become legitimate. All this infighting does my head in when people with thousands of followers on Twitter or YouTubers say, Ethereum's a shitcoin or XYZ's a shitcoin, Bitcoin's no good because of proof of work. Honestly, guys, we are all on the same team until this ecosystem grows bigger. Vitalik is one of the smartest people alive. If he's saying stuff like he believes he can achieve this in the coming years, again, we just have to be patient. We know that a lot of the research is being done now for Ethereum 2.0. Binance continue to be big supporters of the community. They've released their first batch of projects that they're supporting. I believe it's a $500,000 seed round of funding, helping these projects with their 8-week or 10-week program, and they've selected 8 projects so far. So a lot of these funding VCs have been pulling out. We're hearing stories about fundings that were, agreed upon that have been pulled out on last minute, whether that's investment funds or seed round of investing. Binance and the good projects that are doing their research, now is a great time to be getting in because the sentiment is so bad in this space. Nobody's interested anymore. It's hard to raise money. The market caps are far more reasonable and realistic. If you're investing in good projects now with seed funding, this is a lot more like 2015 or 16 than it was in 2017 at the height of the mania. So German stock exchange giant to launch crypto trading. We're just seeing these stories every week, pretty much go unnoticed by the backgrounds. This is going to affect markets and trading throughout Europe. How many times this year have we said that this infrastructure is being built quietly in the background so that when markets turn around, when the bull market resumes, this asset class can grow to that bigger market cap and mature. All these people are not laying out hundreds of millions of dollars because a bubble has popped that's never going to rebound again. I put out this tweet this week. Do you think that BitMEX and their 100x leverage and crypto settled trading rather than fiat settled trading is depressing Bitcoin's price? So 60% of people said yes. I will explain this now. There's a fantastic piece posted on Bitcoin markets, and it's talking about the incentive to short rather than long on BitMEX. Now, I'm not going to go into great detail. I did a big rundown for members last night about how this all works. But in short, if I'm a short trader and I've got $1 million and I want to place a short, the lower I can get the Bitcoin price, I get paid out my profits in Bitcoin. Now, if I can drive Bitcoin down to $1,000 by being a whale and shorting, if I've made $1 million profit on my $1 million account, I get paid 1,000 Bitcoin as my profit rather than $1 million. Now, if I got paid out $1 million, I have to buy $1 million off the market. And what does that do? That pushes up the price. So think about that incentive and the dynamic that BitMEX has created, where I'm going to talk about this a little bit more when we get to the price action, but read that story and get your head around this concept. The fact that BitMEX is by far the number one exchange by volume, and the fact that this dynamic does exist where there's an incentive to short and drive prices down even lower, I'd really love to see trading volume move on to other exchanges, more mature markets, as long as it's backed one by one with real money, with real coins, and not these derivative products. I think the BitMEX has now become almost unhealthy for the entire crypto ecosystem. But let me know your thoughts on that one below. Final story before we get into some price action here. Venezuela is forcing citizens to convert their pension funds into petro because there's no demand, guys. A central cryptocurrency that is supposedly backed by oil and gold and silver that nobody knows anything about. transparency and trust is one of the big things that makes Bitcoin so powerful, and the Petro has none of that. So it really makes me sick when we see them. They've already disrespected their citizens on so many occasions, but now converting their pension funds to prop up the Petro really makes my blood boil. Finally, guys, I know I go through the news for you every week, but we do have a segment, the Daily 10. So we've welcomed Matt Williamson to the Nuggets News team. He goes through all the news, between 20 and 30 articles every day that you may have missed, a lot of the time about smaller cap coins. So head to nuggetsnews.com.au, under news, every day we've got at least 10 articles that you may have missed. On to the charts now, guys. So again, it's been almost a year to the day. Sorry, guys, since Bitcoin peaked out here and 19,000 this time a year ago. Everyone was excited about the Bitcoin futures. Charting Man Dan and I were talking about how extended we were on just about every measure, on RSI, moving averages, Bollinger Bands, whatever you want to put on the chart, guys. We were extended, and telling people to at least take some profits, and only you could be the judge of if you'd made life-changing amount of money or not. And that's probably the number one feedback we got, was that a lot of people didn't take any profits whatsoever. And look, we got all the way down to 6,000 or even lower on some other exchanges back in February, and that was the low for the most of the year until recently, and a lot of people, myself included, thought that that 6,000 level was going to hold and we'd form this rounded bottom with so many touches. But I think markets are being pushed around now. We've in some sort of capitulation. I still don't know if we've had that final capitulation, but I want to talk about where we are now. So let's get rid of all these drawings. Let's head over to my other chart here. Now, over the Christmas period, they tend to be lightly traded timeframes. We were looking for a bounce on the 11th of December, and this is all we got here, just this one little green bar, and we've rolled over again. So what this tells me is that weakness is likely to continue until, right at the end of the month here. Now, in this section, we're expecting a push down with our cycle brackets. This is around Christmas and the New Year period where there's lower volume. And as we just spoke about that story on BitMEX, the whales can push markets around. So on Christmas Day, Christmas Eve, Boxing Day, if they know that there's order books are thin, there's low liquidity, not many people are trading, maybe this is when we get the bullying of the markets down to 3,000, a really aggressive move, and we get this spike down. Who knows? I would not have believed you at the start of the year if you told me we're going to be even contemplating these levels around $1,500, $1,000. But when we look at the ferocity of the moves in such a short period of time, a lot of people are throwing in the towel. That would certainly be a true capitulation. But what I want to talk about is the fact that I don't think this even really matters in the long term, in the scheme of things. All those millions of dollars and all the people that are building out the infrastructure for the future of cryptocurrency, that's not going anywhere. And ideally, Bitcoin would have held 6,000 and we can continue higher. But this is the first time in history that Wall Street missed out, and they've got to try and pull the market back and get on board before they let it run. And I don't think this really changes the long-term targets of $50,000 in the next 2 years, even $100,000 in the next 5 years. Even if Bitcoin gets to $3,000 or $1,000 again, I still think that they're all on the cards. If the technology scales, we'll have 2 halvenings over the next 5 years. So many things can work in Bitcoin's favor. We know central banks are getting desperate around the world. Economies are overdue for a recession. So many things are working in Bitcoin's favor, and we have to remember that this is all short-term noise. And a lot of people, when Bitcoin went from $1,300 all the way down to $160, 90% correction back in 2014-15, how many of those people would have thought that Bitcoin was going to go to $20,000 from $160 over the next few years? It's almost a 200-fold increase. So for Bitcoin to go from $1,000 to $100,000, it's only a 100-fold increase. 200-fold increase gets us to $200,000. So yes, it does get harder to grow when the market cap gets bigger, but there's still so many dynamics that are working in Bitcoin's favor. So try to stay positive, guys. I'm going to continue to talk about this. I'll be here for you. Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is not going anywhere. And if you do want to join us, head over to nuggetsnews.com.au. We've got a range of Christmas specials on, but I will continue to make videos for you occasionally over the festive break. So I hope you've enjoyed that video today, guys. Smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, share these videos around, and thanks for tuning in, guys. Cheers.